Astute Quotations Part 10. They never open their mouths without subtracting from the sum of human knowledge. Thomas Brackett Reed, 1914, speaking of two fellow American congressmen. Little hinges swing big doors. Self-help writer W. Clement Stone. He who never hurries is always on time. Russian novelist Mikhail Bulgakov. Flexibility overcomes rigidity. Phrase in judo. The more intractable the problem, the better. Werner Erhard. The mere fact that you have obstacles to overcome is in your favor. Robert Collier, self-help writer. Problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. Alan Watts. What people think of as the moment of discovery is really the discovery of the question. Dr. Jonas Salk. Nothing is important except releasing the ball at the right instant. Accuracy means less. John Hadle, Pro Bowl quarterback, San Diego Chargers. He thought thrice before acting. Twice would have been enough. Confucius. A wrong decision is generally less disastrous than indecision. Bernhard Langer, two-time Masters champion in golf. Indecision is actually the individual's decision to fail. Raymond Charles Barker, New Thought proponent. A good player who needs too much time can suddenly become a poor player. Johan Cruyff, Dutch football great. The more you reason, the less you create. Suspense writer Raymond Chandler. Thinking instead of acting is the #1 golf disease. Sam Snead. To have some idea what it's like, stand in the outside lane of a motorway, get your mate to drive his car at you at 95 miles an hour, and wait until he's 12 yards away before you decide which way to jump. Jeff Boycott, English cricketer, on batting. Swing hard in case they throw the ball where you're swinging. Duke Snider, Brooklyn and Los Angeles Dodgers. The phrase "off with the crack of the bat," while romantic, is really meaningless, since the outfielder should be in motion long before he hears the sound of the ball meeting the bat. Joe DiMaggio, New York Yankees. That last one sounded kinda high to me. Babe Ruth to an umpire after getting blown away by 3 fastballs. Cardinal rule for batters with 2 strikes on them. Never trust the umpire. Old baseball adage. The way to do field work is to never come up for air until it's all over. Anthropologist Margaret Mead. Young man, if I could remember the names of these particles, I would have been a botanist. Physicist Enrico Fermi, Nobel Prize winner in 1938. If you buy a book on golf instruction, buy the thinnest one you can find. Chichi Rodriguez, World Golf Hall of Fame. The smaller the ball used in the sport, the better the book. Journalist George Plimpton. The best students are always flunking. Every teacher knows that. Robert Pirsig, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. If you make your opponent flinch, you've already won. Swordmaster Miyamoto Musashi. All the time he's boxing, he's thinking. All the time he was thinking, I was hitting him. Jack Dempsey. Sock it to me? Richard Nixon on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And that was during an election year, I believe. The man who makes the wrong first move always loses the game. Japanese proverb. Why must I lose to this idiot? Chess Grandmaster Aaron Nimzowitsch. The pitcher has to find out if the hitter is timid, and if the hitter is timid, he has to remind the hitter he's timid. Don Drysdale, Los Angeles Dodgers. You can discover what your enemy fears most by observing the means he uses to frighten you. Pop philosopher Eric Hoffer. Home plate is 17 inches wide, but I ignore the middle 12 inches. I pitch to the 2.5 inches on each side. Hall of Famer Warren Spahn. Half the plate belongs to the batter, and half the plate belongs to me. Don Drysdale. The baseline belongs to me. Ty Cobb. The power of accurate observation is commonly called cynicism by those who have not got it. George Bernard Shaw. Healthy skepticism is the basis of all accurate observation. Arthur Conan Doyle. I watch him for an hour. If he misses more than one shot, I know I can beat him. Luther Wimpy Lassiter, champion pool player. Strategy requires thought. Tactics require observation. Chess Grandmaster Max Euwe, or you, whichever you want. A man does not know what he is saying until he knows what he is not saying. G.K. Chesterton. There's nothing to it. You only have to hit the right notes at the right time and the instrument plays itself. Johann Sebastian Bach. My definition of an educated man is the fellow who knows the right thing to do at the time it has to be done. You can be sincere and still be stupid. Inventor Charles Kettering. The price of inaction is far greater than the price of making a mistake. Meister Eckhart, a mystic from the early Middle Ages. Some individuals have developed such strong internal standards that they no longer need the opinion of others to judge whether they have performed a task well or not. The ability to give objective feedback to oneself is in fact the mark of the expert. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, author of the book Flow, 1990. That book is boring as hell, but there's good ideas in there. I learned to approach racing like a game of billiards. If you bash the ball too hard, you get nowhere. As you handle the cue properly, you drive with more finesse. Juan Manuel Fangio, Formula One racer. If people gripped a knife and fork the way they do a golf club, they'd starve to death. Sam Snead. Only one golfer in 1,000 grips the club lightly enough. Johnny Miller, winner of 2 majors and TV analyst. Golf is a good walk spoiled. Mark Twain. If I were asked to name one aspect of tennis that is the biggest weakness of players of all levels, I would probably say concentration. However good your shots, however fast your movement and reflexes, all is lost if the mind is not controlling every move. Ken Rosewall, Australian tennis great, nicknamed Muscles because he didn't have any. Will and intellect are one and the same thing. Spinoza. Wisdom is always an overmatch for strength. NBA coach Phil Jackson. I can't really remember the names of the clubs we went to. Former NBA star Shaquille O'Neal on whether, during a visit to Greece, he visited the Parthenon. If you believe your catcher is intelligent, and you know that he has considerable experience, it is a good thing to leave the game almost entirely in his hands. Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Feller. 200 million Americans, and there ain't 2 good catchers among 'em. Baseball manager Casey Stengel. God is certainly getting an earful tonight. Jim Murray, sports columnist, on the death of Casey Stengel. If you want to make a difference in this world, you'd better find the trim tab. Werner Erhard. The fall of the Berlin Wall made for nice pictures, but it all started in the shipyards. Lech Walesa, labor activist, 2nd President of Poland. Every team has a pair of top players, but it's the 3rd man down who wins and loses games. Del Harris, coach, Houston Rockets. Basketball. The one-man team is a complete and total myth. Don Shula, head coach, Miami Dolphins. We have deep depth. Yogi Berra. All rode fast, but none so fast as Stroke. Saying among rowers, noting that one oarsman out of sync will disrupt the entire group. Stroke is the rower at the helm who sets the pace. No member of a crew is praised for the rugged individuality of his rowing. Emerson. Using the word I when you're in a group makes things complicated. Wanderlei Luxemburgo, manager of the Brazilian national team, 1999. If I'd wanted to be an individual, I'd have taken up tennis. Ruud Gullit, Dutch football manager. Stardom is, if anything, a deterrent in the pursuit of a championship. Bill Bradley, New York Knicks, and former U.S. Senator. I would rather play with 10 men than wait for a player who is late for the bus. Jose Mourinho, former manager of Chelsea. Most people are not team players. Don Mattingly, New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers. Men do not know how much strength is in poise. James Russell Lowell, 1819 to 1891. I let my feet spend as little time on the ground as possible. Jesse Owens, winner of 4 gold medals, gadfly to Adolf Hitler. Skill equals speed times accuracy times form times adaptability. Harry Johnson, University of Nebraska at Omaha, 1961. If you try to fight the course, it will beat you. Pro golfer Lou Graham, winner of the 1975 U.S. Open. Relying on my past performance will only get in my way. Hall of Fame pitcher Greg Maddux. When you lose your body, it's all arm. Mark Connor, pitching coach for the New York Yankees, regarding a pitcher who stopped including his legs and torso in his delivery. Oaks may fall while reeds brave the storm. Henry George Bone, publisher, 1796 to 1884. In a craps game, the loser leaves the dice so damp with defeat that the stickman pushes them clinically to one side as though they were infected. Jack Richardson, from Christmas in Las Vegas, 1965. The dice cannot read their own spots. Frank Herbert, author of Dune. The story of the human race is the story of men and women selling themselves short. Abraham Maslow. Every career has an ignition point somewhere, and in my case, it was not watching a giant batting, but merely watching a giant walk out to bat. Cricket great Colin Cowdery regarding cricket great Walter Hammond. What you respect, you will attract. Heard on a fundamentalist Christian TV show on a Sunday morning. Please send $50 and God will send you a thank you note. I don't get no respect. I met the Surgeon General and he offered me a cigarette. Rodney Dangerfield. The less experienced a doctor is, the higher are his notions of professional dignity. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, M.D. The real geniuses know where their writing has to be good and where they can get away with some mediocrity. Composer Dmitri Shostakovich. Half the failures in life arise from pulling in one's horse as one is leaping. J.C. and A.W. Hare, writing in 1827. We've never surrendered before. It's not part of our training. Mike Norman, British Marine commander in the Falklands War. 2 leaps per chasm is fatal. Chinese proverb. A fortress that parleys is half taken. Margaret de Valois, Queen of France, 1553 to 1615. Any person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to cut off all sources of retreat. Napoleon Hill. There are only 2 options regarding commitment. You're either in or you're out. There is no such thing as life in between. NBA coach and executive Pat Riley. Don't undertake a project unless it is manifestly important and nearly impossible. Edwin Land, co-founder of Polaroid. The secret of all those who make discoveries is that they regard nothing as impossible. Justus von Liebig, considered the founder of organic chemistry. The airplane stays up because it doesn't have the time to fall. Orville Wright. The way to succeed is to double your failure rate. Thomas Watson, founder of IBM. The beginning is half of the whole. Plato. I was rising above myself, doing things I had no right to be doing. Bruce Jenner, gold medalist in the decathlon, 1976. And that line apparently was a little prophetic. Here's the difference between a professional and an amateur, whether a masseur or a surgeon. When the amateur makes a mistake, he says, whoops. When the professional makes a mistake, he says, there. Some part of a mistake is always correct. Former chess grandmaster Savielly Tartakower. Every great mistake has a halfway moment, a split second when it can be recalled and perhaps remedied. Pearl S. Buck. Before I make a mistake, I don't make that mistake. Johan Cruyff, Dutch football great. Coaching is nothing more than eliminating mistakes before you get fired. Lou Holtz, Notre Dame. When coaches get fired, the players have a lot to do with it. Allen Iverson, the NBA's most valuable player for 2001. Your power is a function of velocity. That is to say, your power is a function of the rate at which you translate intention into reality. Most of us disempower ourselves by finding a way to slow, impede, or make more complex than necessary the process of translating intention into reality. Werner Erhard. The art of statesmanship is to foresee the inevitable and to expedite its occurrence. Talleyrand. Bridge keeper. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? King Arthur. What do you mean, an African or European swallow? From Monty Python and the Holy Grail. When you're putting well, the only question is what part of the hole it's going to fall in, not if it's going in. Jack Nicklaus. May I pause to suggest to you managers and general agents that when one of your good producers goes into a slump, the less you talk about his production and the more you talk about his purpose, the sooner will you pull him out of his slump. From The Common Denominator of Success, a classic speech delivered by Albert Gray at a 1940 insurance convention in Philadelphia. He who resolves upon doing a thing, by that very resolution often scales the barriers to it and secures its achievement. Samuel Smiles, from his book Self-Help, 1859. A champion is one who gets up when he can't. Boxing champ Jack Dempsey. A lobster, when left high and dry among the rocks, does not have sense enough to work his way back to the sea, but waits for the sea to come to him. If it does not come, he remains where he is and dies, although the slightest effort would enable him to reach the waves which are perhaps within a yard of him. The world is full of human lobsters. Orison Swett Marden, founder of Success Magazine. Muscles flexin'. The B-52s from Rock Lobster. A poor player isn't poor because he tends to kick the ball in his own goal. It's because when you put intense pressure on him, he loses control. So you have to increase the tempo of the game, and he'll automatically give the ball away. Johan Cruyff, Dutch footballer. The tempo, the essential beat of the game, ultimately will be controlled by one team. The winning one. Gail Goodrich, Los Angeles Lakers. If it's Tuesday, this must be Belgium. 1969 parody on the whirlwind nature of European vacation tours. The great player prepares his shot on the way to it, while the lesser player starts to prepare it when he reaches the ball. Tennis great Bill Tilden. By the time you get to your ball, if you don't know what to do with it, try another sport. Pro golfer Julius Boros. If you're up against a girl with big boobs, bring her to the net and make her hit backhand volleys. Billie Jean King. Said Paul's grandfather, Wilfred Bramble, while peering at an ample's bosom, or woman's ample bosom, "I bet you're a great swimmer." From A Hard Day's Night, 1964. Anger is never without an argument, but seldom with a good one. George Savile, English statesman, 1633 to 1695. Whatever is begun in anger ends in shame. Benjamin Franklin. No matter how just your words may be, you ruin everything when you speak with anger. St. John Chrysostom, from the 4th century A.D. The meaning of your communication is the response you get. Anthropologist Gregory Bateson. The reaction you get is the communication you intended. Werner Erhard. If you play a tune and a person doesn't tap their feet, don't play that tune. Count Basie. A good umpire is the umpire you don't even notice. Van Johnson, first president of the American League in baseball. The best umpired game is the game in which the fans cannot recall the umpires who worked it. Bill Clem, an umpire in the early part of the 20th century. The Lord answers my prayers everywhere except on the golf course. Evangelist Billy Graham. Prepare for the trauma of success. Sales trainer and author Tom Hopkins. When one's thoughts are neither frivolous nor flippant, when one's thoughts are neither stiff-necked nor stupid, but rather are harmonious, they habitually render physical calm and deep insight. Hildegard of Bingen, a mystic in the early Middle Ages. When we forget to use visualization and imagination, it's like not using our minds. Jose Silva. I pictured myself as a virus or cancer cell and tried to sense what it would be like. Dr. Jonas Salk, developer of the polio vaccine and one of the great heroes of the 20th century. Public service is my motto. Mobster Al Capone. This completes Astute Quotations Part 10.